Welcome back, curious minds. Today we'll unpack how you could have dodged the Black Plague. But first, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop a memorable comment. Ready? Let's time travel to 14th century Europe. Like COVID-19, bubonic, septicemia, and pneumonic plague variants thrived where large crowds convened. Back then, open-mouthed coughers and sneezers were the ideal plague spreaders. But it wasn't just people. Plague-infected fleas biting humans played a massive role. Hence, staying away from the masses and flea-ridden areas could have saved your hide. In Milan, when the Black Death news hit, Lord Bernabò Visconti took an extreme step. He ordered plague-inflicted homes to be sealed, isolating the diseased within. Brutal? Yes. Effective? Surprisingly so, Milan's mortality rate was 15%, the lowest among Italian cities. Meanwhile, the pneumonic plague was enjoying the party in Florence. The plague-ridden bodies piled up in the streets like a gruesome lasagna. Cleaning up this mess was the Becchini, a group of low-stature plague-ridden men. They cleared the streets while the rich fled, leaving the cities deserted. Even Pope Clement IV survived, thanks to a ring of fire. It deterred rats and fleas, and humans too, from approaching. As the plague raged on, every city had its strategies, and Milan was no exception. When word of the plague crept through the Italian peninsula and reached the ears of the stern Lord Bernabò Visconti, he resolved to guard his city with an iron fist. His draconian methods were chilling to behold. At the mere whisper of infection within a household, the house was sealed, locking in both the living and the dead, in an attempt to halt the transmission of the disease. A harsh and seemingly cruel measure indeed, it was met with a mixture of terror and approval. Still, the city's stone-cold tactics reaped benefits. While the plague gnawed away at Europe, Milan stood strong, its citizens better shielded from the invisible enemy. The mortality rate was only 15%, making it an oasis of relative safety amidst the Italian pandemic desert. The world watched with a mix of horror and fascination, the methods extreme but effective, leaving a bittersweet taste of survival. Meanwhile, down in the heart of Tuscany, Florence was having a grand old horrifying time. The city, once an emblem of Renaissance art and culture, was now playing host to the pneumonic plague. The plague reveled in the city's narrow streets and cramped houses, festering and multiplying like an unwelcome guest. In Florence's streets, corpses were piled high, layer upon layer, reminiscent of a grotesque version of the city's famed lasagna. This grim task fell upon the Becchini, a band of men already afflicted with the plague, consigned to society's lowest rung. With the grim knowledge that they were living on borrowed time, these men, clad in their ragged garments, had little to lose. They worked diligently, clearing the streets of the dead as the wealthy Florentines fled the city in droves, their silken garments flapping like distressed birds against the apocalyptic backdrop. The city, once filled with the laughter of children, the clamor of merchants, and the rhythm of craftsmen, now echoed with the eerie silence of a ghost town, a haunting remnant of a world paused by the Black Death. These two tales of survival against the plague were two sides of the same coin, reflecting the desperation of humanity in the face of an indiscriminate enemy. One city chose rigid enforcement and isolation, while another was left deserted by its wealthy citizens, left to be cared for by the diseased and the desperate. These stories serve as a stark reminder of our fragility and resilience in the face of a rampant, unseen foe. In 1666, the Great Fire of London demonstrated fire's effectiveness again, incinerating a large population of plague-spreading rats and fleas. Medical practitioners eventually adopted a plague uniform, an overcoat, hat, and a bird-like beaked mask filled with sweet-smelling items, believing the bad air or miasma spread the disease. This ensemble, strange as it was, provided a degree of protection. Remember the Flagellants? These religious zealots publicly flogged themselves, believing God sent the plague as a punishment for sins. Their well-traveled lifestyle, unfortunately, helped the disease spread. The only safe course? Stay away. Certain cities implemented the concept of quarantine, an Italian invention, or Quaranta Giorni, meaning 40 days. They sealed their borders and ports, enforcing a waiting period on incoming ships to ensure they were plague-free. Even when extreme measures were taken, many cities like Pistoria in northern Italy still lost a staggering 70% of its population. Perhaps they should have focused more on keeping their citizens healthy. Research shows that those in poor health had higher mortality rates. Winters were a safer bet, with the plague being nearly non-existent in colder months. But the plague, in its cunning, later adapted to colder climates like Norway, causing multiple outbreaks. Genetic immunity was a lucky draw. Certain gene clusters found in Roma people triggered an immune response to Yersinia pestis, the plague-causing bacteria. This isn't to say they were completely safe, but their odds of survival were certainly higher. To conclude, amidst the chaos, some Europeans adopted a carefree attitude, indulging in dances, feasts, and merrymaking. After all, they figured, why not live life to the fullest when the threat of death is so near? So, whether you would quarantine, seal your house, or carouse like there's no tomorrow, surviving the Black Plague was a feat in itself. Remember to subscribe and stay curious. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.